What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we're talking about Abhyss. Again, this is the archetype revealed last night for Ancient Guardians. Very, very cool archetype. Kind of has some hits and misses about it, I think. I think the engine is solid. I think it does have some potential, but I do think there were some big misses, cards that give your opponent advantage, whatever. That's not the goal today. Today, I want to talk about cards specifically that seem to work really well with Ancient Guardians, or with Abhyss specifically, that already are out in Yu-Gi-Oh! So it's just like random like tech cards or just useful cards that already exist that are going to give an extra boost to this deck, because in a vacuum you can read a new archetype, but you also, it's hard to keep in mind every other card that might be usable from outside that archetype that already exists that's going to make it better and better. So we're going to be going through the top 5 cards I think you need to keep in mind when looking at Abhyss, referring to cards that already exist. So without further ado, let's jump in with number 1, Snake Rain. I don't think I need to explain this. This is a Reptile archetype with Graveyard Synergy. We knew at some point Snake Rain was going to be really good in Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if it's going to be tier 1, but it's good in the deck, at least. It's a very good card for this deck. Discard a card, send 4 Reptile monsters from deck to hand. No other restriction, no level restriction, no attribute restriction, nothing whatsoever. Very, very good. I believe this card by itself, with like obviously a discard, gets you like board presence with like disruption for your opponent. And I believe it sets you up for like a lot of monsters engraved to just get you continual advantage, like turn after turn after turn, which is really, really solid. As long as you can keep putting bodies on the field, the Reptile monsters engraved or the big Abhyss monsters engraved will be able to tribute them to get themselves back onto the field. So very, very good card. It's like, and it also doesn't take your normal summon too. So this is like a play without even using your normal. Very, very key. So keep that in mind. Next up, we have Viper's Rebirth. This is a Monster Reborn card for reptiles in general. It can reborn any non-tuner, and the monster does get special or get destroyed on the end phase, but it's no other restrictions whatsoever. Usually, if you're using a card like this, it extends you into a monster, and then you'll probably either tribute it off for one of the boss monsters in grave, or you will like link the monster off, exit it off, whatever. And there's no level restrictions. You can just summon back the big ones if you wanted. No negate their effects, no nothing like that. The only other restriction the card has is that it says all monsters in your grave have to be reptile. So you cannot use this after turn 1 if you went through something that wasn't a reptile, which does kind of throw a straw into it. So I put it at the beginning of the video. I want to put the better ones for last, because I do think this deck doesn't seem like it's all there by itself. And maybe we'll get more support down the line. We usually do, maybe in a core set or something. Maybe in Dawn of Majesty or something. I don't know. But I just think it's important to know, I don't think the archetype is fully there by itself. So if it does see play, or if it does be, like if people do play it out the gate, it'll be played with like other engines, Chaos engines, Lightsworn engines, whatever, just other stuff that likes to put stuff in grave. That would make a lot of sense. So yeah, that's where I have my Viper's Rebirth. Pretty cool card nonetheless, though. Still a good extender. Next up, we have King of the Pharaohs. This is another one that kind of goes next to Snake Rain as a pretty obvious one. A lot of people know King of Pharaohs. We saw Gallant Granite get like immensely good even after it was released, just because of Adamantipator. So we kind of look at King of Pharaohs and go, that's the same thing. Same thing with Gigant X as well. At some point, he's going to be good. This archetype is level 4s and level 8s, so they can use him, and he searches anything. The only thing I will say, though, is only the 2, like, I guess technically there's, like, all the level 4s seem fine to search. Obviously, the 2 main level 4s are better to search, just because they're actual, like, engine starters. You never really want to be searching the high-level ones, though, because they only really summon themselves from grave, so they're kind of just bricks in hand. So I will say that there isn't a million amazing searches in the deck, but they're there enough where, like, if you could make him, why not, right? And he's a big beater too, and could also make Zeus playable in the deck as well, right? Like search a card, get advantage, attack, main phase 2, slap a Zeus on that biddy. Could be worse. Next up, really, really cool, and I had multiple people in the comment section say Lair of Darkness. Shout out to them, because I didn't realize it initially. All of the boss monsters for this archetype say tribute any monster in grave to summon themselves back to the field, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 monsters. This card becomes immediately super interesting. Also, another thing to keep in mind, the deck doesn't really seem to use its normal summons, so maybe you could just throw like Lilith in there and then play like some trap cards and then focus on just like setting up the grave with these guys and like Snake Rain, and then just setting up Lair with like, and then using Lilith to also like turbo you into some powerful trap cards. I don't know. Seems like it has potential. It's just really cool, just considering the fact that as long as this stays up on the field, every single turn you get to just like like bring back your guys by tributing your opponent's stuff. Obviously that's only once per turn, so keep that in mind. But you're also going to get free tokens, and the way this deck works, you could end up getting like 4 tokens on end phase, which is actually insane. So keep that in mind. The tokens could play a part, because if they survive till like the following turn, that's just more tribute fodder for the monsters in grave, right? So you can just spam them back out again and gain their effects, which is pretty cool. So I do think Lair has potential in the deck. I do want to keep it in mind. I do want you guys to keep it in mind. Maybe we could see something like how we've seen Infernoids played, right? Like Infernoids just generically can make good use of Lair of Darkness. This is another deck that doesn't really use its normal summon, right? I think it has potential for sure. Definitely think this could be a card to keep an eye on for the deck. And the last thing I want to throw in here is Reptilian Echidna. I haven't seen too many people bring this card up, but I do think this card is kind of nuts. This card requires any 2 monsters, including a reptile, so it doesn't even need 2 reptiles, so you could still, like, use a Lair token and a reptile. Boom, make this card mid to late game and actually put in some work. If you don't know what this card does, on Link Summon, it lets you target a monster your opponent controls and change its attack to 0. Not bad. It's permanently 0, so you can clear over anything then. Even Herb, even though because she's 200 attack, she'll still get over it. She also says during your main phase, if your opponent controls a monster with 0 attack, you can add reptile monsters with different names from your deck to your hand up to the number of monsters your opponent controls with 0 attack. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except for reptiles. And you can only use her effects once per turn. Yeah, I just think, like, 1, the effect to just, like, make something 0, not half bad, just to be able to walk over anything if it was a threat. 2, the ability to search any reptile in existence. That's pretty good. It does lock you into reptiles to the end of the turn, but I don't know. This deck could just like summon back some of the boss monsters, so you don't really fully need to, like, you don't need to fully like be going into like random stuff like access code and Boral Sword to like kill your opponent in situations like this anyway. So I'm not too pressed on that. I think that's totally fine. I just think this is a really cool utility card, gets you into a reptile, and this archetype, by the way, also has a trap that's kind of like a weird scapegoat where it summons 2 tokens, and I believe both the tokens are reptiles. So you could literally summon those on your end phase or your opponent's turn, whichever you'd rather do. Then on your turn, you can either, 1, tribute them off, or take those directly into a Reptilian Echidna, and then use her effect to start, getting you back into your engine, getting some of the, getting like the 2 small guys that like dump to send and search or whatever. They do, like, they both do multiple things, but still pretty cool there. I think that would be a cool way to go about it. So definitely a card to keep in mind as well. There were a couple other cards that I thought were interesting. I thought like the Alien Link 2 is interesting, but I felt like Echidna 100% outclassed that card as far as utility and how much it would come up, so I left him out of the top 5, but it's still something to keep in mind. And there's also like that Meteorite Trap card, still a pretty interesting card, but I do think it's a little situational, so for me I decided to leave that one out as well, but that's another one to keep in mind. But these are the 5 I think that are like super big. Like, these are almost just like archetypal cards for this archetype, just because of how like straight up like useful they all can be. So just keep them in mind. That's going to do it for me here, though, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know suggestions down below. If you think I missed anything, if there's any other random cards you're kind of just like, John, peep this real quick. I'm totally down to do that. Or let me know what you think about the list in general. But yeah, that's going to do it for me here. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel. If you want to see more discussion videos like this one in the future, or news videos when new cards drop, I do that always, and deck profiles as well. I got stuff coming. I can't wait. Hopefully when I move, I will be moving soon, in the next like week actually. Once I get everything back set up, hopefully eventually I have like a duel set up, so I might actually be able to upload like a live duels, or even just a remote duels with certain other people, which would be really, really cool. Can't wait for that. I've kind of been holding back on some stuff. I wanted to do some new stuff with the channel, but I was kind of like, I'm gonna move, so like what's really the point of like doing new setups and stuff in this house when I'm literally just about to move? It just didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, so I held off on it. But hopefully very, very soon I'll be able to start pushing on that, and I cannot wait. So sorry about rambling about not this video. Thank you for making it this far. I love you guys. Peace. I'm gonna get the hell out of here. I'll see you in the next one.